Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Lesson number 28. So inshallah we continue from I believe exercise number 12. Yes. So it's from exercise number 12 we continue. It says isnadu masha ila dhamair. So basically we have to see how to conjugate masha to the pronouns. Okay, so what do you remember about masha yamshi? Any thoughts about it? What kind of verb is this? Naqis ya'i, right? And do you remember the root letters and do you remember about the changes? It's basically mashaya, and we know that mashaya, when there is ya has fatha and there is fatha before it, normally it changes into alif. However, in naqis, it changes into alif maqsura. So it becomes masha. Okay, so we have masha, mashaya, and then we have al-awladu, hamidan masha, and al-awladu mashau. Yes, now please tell me which change has taken place over here. I'm sure, inshallah, you should be able to tell me now.
Drop the root letter.
And why do we drop it?
The construction. Because it's so heavy in pronouncing.
Okay, so the rule was when we have two weak letters together, in this case we have ya and waw. So the one that is the first one, if you want to remember it in an easy way, we will say the first one will be dropped. And if you want to know in the real way, then it means that the one that is the part of the root letter that will be dropped. So ya is the part of the root letter. That's rule number one. And rule number two is if there is a fatha before it, then it will be retained. We will not make any change. If there isn't fatha before it, then we might need to change the haraka according to the letter. But if we have fatha before it, then we will not change it. So now, as you can see here, when we dropped ya, what is left behind is mashau. So that's why here we have mashau, and we know that alif has to be added just to figure out, or just to say that this is the third person plural. So hamid and masha and al-awladu mashau. Mashau. So now you know, first we discussed in the previous lessons before we started it, and now it's basically the review of what we have done before. So why it has become mashau now, it should be clear to you now. Is it clear, or do you want to ask, or is it like, is there anything that's not clear about it? All right, so that means that everything is okay.
Ustad, I just want to ask one thing. What is this isnad, Ustad? How is that construction made, or what actually it means? I don't understand that.
Yes,
Isnad.
how to conjugate, yani. It's basically asnada yusnidu isnadan, to conjugate something. So how we are going to conjugate the verb masha?
So what is that basically? Isnad means where here in this letters. What does it mean?
To
actually?
associate, to connect something to someone. To associate.
Okay, if they give a verb and say do the isnad, we have to write all the like for the past verb, we have to write all the conjugations.
That's
like
right.
that?
Yeah, isnad al-madi wa isnad al-mudari.
Okay.
So how to conjugate it, how to connect it to the abdamair, as you see here. In this case, we will translate it to connect it to the pronouns. Isnad ila abdamair.
Okay.
And if it says isnad al-madi, that means you will write the past tense conjugation. And when it says isnad al-mudari, that means you will write the present tense conjugation.
Okay.
So Aminatu Mashat, and we can see here that this is basically masha. And remember, please, that when alif maqsura, after alif maqsura, if there is anything else, like if there is any letter or if there is anything else, then it changes into regular alif. So from, it was basically mashaya, so it has changed into masha. Why? Because there is ta after that. So now we have iltiqa sakinain. So what happens when we have two weak letters together, two letters together, and both of them are sakin? Which one will be dropped?
The weak letter gets dropped.
The letter gets dropped. So that's why it has become mashat. So hamidun masha, al-awladu mashaw, aminatu mashat, and then al-banatu mashayna. Mashayna is, there is without any change, it's on the same pattern as fataha yaftahu and yaftahna and mashayna, they are equal. There is no change that has taken place over here. Okay, now you might have noticed that in these lessons we do not have the dual, but we have already discussed the dual as well. However, the last two lessons are about the dual. So inshallah, when we reach the last two lessons, which is after one lesson, then we will come to know, like we have already learned about it, how to make dual. And inshallah, in detail, we will see with the examples as well. So Aminatu mashat wal albanatu mashayna, anta mashayta, antum mashaytum. And then from mashayna, you remember from number 6, the second track of the train, then we will follow it as a normal conjugation. So mashayta, mashaytum, mashayti, mashaytunna, mashaytu, and mashayna. So this is the past conjugation of masha. All right. Now it says isnadu yamshi ila damair, and now we look at the present tense. First we looked at the past tense, which was masha, and now we look at the present tense, which is yamshi. Yamshi, it is basically yamshi, yamshiyu, right? So it's basically daraba yadribu, mashaya yamshiyu. So when it is yamshiyu, we know that when ya has dhamma and then there is kasra before it, then ya becomes sakin. Then ya becomes sakin. So it has become hamidun yamshi. And the dual doesn't change. We have discussed that the dual will be yamshiyani and then al-awladu yamshuna. So this is basically yamshiyuna on the pattern of yadribuna, yamshiyuna. Again, we have two weak letters together. The first one gets dropped. Okay, now the rule is if there is fatha before it, we will not make any change. But if we don't have fatha before it, then we have to bring in the haraka according to the letter. According to the letter.
Suitable with dhamma.
Yeah, so that's why it becomes yamshuna. Because if you remember, we have already discussed that the letter is heavier than the haraka. So that's why haraka will change and the letter will not change. So that's why it becomes yamshuna, al-awladu yamshuna. So we know that only 3 changes take place in the mudari. So 2 changes we have already discussed. And the third one, it takes place when we talk about the feminine second person. So when we have implemented the change to yamshi, then it will be tamshi, tamshi, amshi, and namshi. So five of them will be the same, they will not change. Aminatu tamshi and albanatu yamshina, anta tamshi and amtum tamshuna. And why it has become tamshuna? Because the same change we have implemented here, it will be implemented over here. So here it has become yamshuna. So when it becomes yamshuna, this one will be automatically tamshuna. Anti tamshina. Now again here, if you remember that we have 2 weak letters together, ya with kasra and ya sakina. So the one that is the first one will be dropped, or the one that is the part of the root letter will be dropped. So when it gets dropped, what is left behind is tamshina. Anti tamshina and antunna tamshina. And if you remember, both of them will be equal. Anti and antunna will be equal. Anti tamshina wa antunna tamshina. Ana amshi and nahnu namshi. Ana amshi, I walk, and nahnu namshi, we walk. All right. And we have already discussed how to make fi'l al-amr. Isnadu fi'l al-amri masha ila ad-damairi. So imshi ya hamidu, it was from tamshi, and from tamshi alamat al-mudari has been dropped and the last ya has been dropped and it has become imshi. And If you got it, excellent. If not, please go back to the previous lessons and you will get the idea, like how it has changed into imshi. Imshi ya hamidu and imshu ya awladu. Imshi ya aminatu and imshina ya banatu. So this is what we have already discussed in the previous lessons. And this is what we say, sister, isnadu fi'l al-amri. As we discussed, isnadu fi'l al-amri, or isnadu fi'l al-madari, isnadu fi'l al-madi, and isnadu fi'l al-nahi. All of them, the same word will be used. Okay, Wayak. So isnadu nasiya ila damairi. Okay, what is the difference between nasiya and mashaya? Please tell me. You should be able to tell me now. Masha yamshi is from Bab
Daraba
yadribu. Excellent. Daraba yadribu. And when we say nasiya yansa is from Bab Samia. Yes, Mahu. So we say seen, we will write only seen because we know that this is Samia. Seen stands for Samia. So Samia yasma'u, the past tense doesn't change. Hamidun nasiya, Hamid forgot. Al-awladu nasu, and the boys forgot. Asluhu nasiyu. The same thing here. We have two weak letters together. The first one gets dropped. If we have fatha before it, no change will take place. If we don't have fatha before it, then we have to bring in the haraka that is according to the letter. What is compatible with waw?
Dhamma.
Dhamma. So that's why we have dhamma over here. Al-awladu nasu. And then the fourth one doesn't change, nasiyat. And then similarly, the sixth one, nasina, no change will take place. And then from 6, we know that we are on the second track of the train. We will continue. Nasita, nasitum, nasiti, nasitunna, nasitu, and nasina. Don't forget that the dual is missing here. So can you complete with the dual, because we have practiced with the dual as well. Nasiya, the dual will be?
Nasiya.
Nasiya, nasu,
Nasau.
nasiyat,
Nasu.
mhm,
Nasiyata.
nasiyata, nasina.
Nasina.
Excellent. Nasita.
Nasita. Nasituma. Nasitum.
Perfect.
Nasiti. Nasituma. Nasitunna. Nasitu. Nasina.
Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. So that's why we practiced dual, so that even if we don't have in the books, we get used to it. And I'm glad that you have already memorized it. And then we have from the first we practiced the past, and now we practiced modare. And this is isnadu yansa ila damairi. Okay, nasiya yansa, how it has changed into yansa? It was basically yansa,
Yansahu.
yansayu. Okay, yansayu, and
Yes,
we know
because
that
there's a fatha before that. That's why it has gone into a.
it has changed into alif maqsura.
Yeah.
Normally it changes into regular alif, but when it comes from naqis, then it changes into alif maqsura. So that's why it has become yansa, yansa, hamidun yansa, and al-awladu yansawna, al-awladu yansawna. Now please tell me, asluhu, the real form is yansayuna, how it has changed from yansayuna to yansawna.
Drop the root, and just because before that there is a fatha, so we are not going to make any changes.
Any change, if fatha is there, it will be retained, no change will be made, and that's why it has become yansawna. Only the weak letter has been dropped because we have two weak letters, and the first one gets dropped the easy way, and the real way is when we have the root letter gets dropped, which is ya, so that's why it has changed into yansawna. Okay, yansa, what about the dual? Do you remember the dual?
Yansaya.
Yansa,
The ya will come back,
ya,
Ustad.
yansayani. Don't forget that we have the ani sound for the dual. For the present tense, we have the ani sound for the dual. Yansa, yansayani, yansawna.
Tansa.
Tansa,
Tansaya.
tansayani,
Yansaina.
yansayna. Okay. Tansa,
Tansayani.
okay.
Tansawna.
Tansawna. So we know that if this is yansawna, then by default it will be tansawna. Okay. And then we have anti tansayna.
Tansayna.
And this one
Tansayani.
basically, yeah, tansayina, and the ya gets dropped and fatha retains over there. So it has become tansayna. Okay, antuma tansayani.
Tansayani.
Mhm.
Antunna tansayna.
Tansayna.
Ana
Ana
ansa.
ansa wa nahnu
Nahnu
nansa.
nansa.
And we know that anti and antunna, both of them will be the same.
Same.
Tansayna, tansayna. And from the background, this one is not mabni because this is anti. This one for the feminine plural will be mabni al fath. However, this one will not be mabni, it will change. Okay, isnadu fi'l al-amri min nasiya ila damairi. So from, it was basically tensa, and from tensa, you know that the ending becomes
Drop the
sakin.
mudari.
Alamat al-mudari gets dropped, and we have to bring in hamzat al-wasl. And if we have
So
fatha
here
over
the
here,
ya gets, the alif maksura gets dropped.
so here, that's right. Thank you very much. Alif Maqsura gets dropped. So what is left behind that is seen with fatha. So we say seen maftuha. And then we have to add Hamzat al-Wasl. And Hamzat al-Wasl has taken kasra. Why has it taken kasra?
Because in the scale of, it's not on the scale of Nasara.
Nasara yansuru.
It's not on the scale of Nasara Yansuru. And that's why it has taken kasra. So in Saya Hamidu, forget O Hamid. In Sawiya Awladu, forget O boys. In Sayya Aminatu, forget O Amina. And in Sayna Ya Banatu, forget O daughters or O girls. All right, so it's all about practice. Alhamdulillah, we have practiced a lot. So now it should be easier for you. And now it's just going through the, like going through the conjugation, and that's it. And now we have isnadu da'a ila damairi da'a. This is da'a.
Yad'u.
Yad'u.
Nasara
Naqis,
yansuru.
naqis wawi or naqis ya'i. Excellent. Da'awa. Perfect.
Da'awa.
Naqis wawi. Perfect. So it was basically da'awa, and we know that waw, when waw is mutaharrik and there is fatha before it changes into alif. Yeah, it changes into alif.
It will change. Sorry, it will change into alif.
So it has become hamidun da'a, al-awladu da'awu,
Da'awu.
and again it is da'awu on the pattern of this is nasaru. So on the pattern of nasaru, it is nasaru.
Like how that ya dhamma got dropped as a root letter, here also waw dhamma will get dropped as the root part.
So we can say waw al-madmuma if you want to say.
Yeah, waw madmuma.
Madmuma gets dropped. So alif is there. If alif is there, it will be retained. We don't have to make any changes. That's why what is left behind is da'awu. Al-awladu da'awu. So from there, the third one again, if this is da'a, so this will be da'at, because ta will be added to it. And we know this ta sakina is basically the sign of
Ta'ut tanis.
ta'ut tanith. And when we have sakinain, iltaqa'u sakinain, the weak letter gets dropped. So that's why it has changed into da'at. And from that, khalas, we have to take the train, and then da'ata and da'awna. Da'awta, da'awtuma, da'awtum, da'awti, da'awtuma, da'awtunna, da'awna. Excellent. All right, so the past is clear now, and now we move on to the present. So I believe now, mashallah, one of you should be able to do it by yourselves, so that I have the satisfaction that you also know how to do it. So please just try to do it, and if there is anything, inshallah, I will help you. Yad'u, originally, what is this? The first we have to look at the original form.
This is yad'u.
Yad'u. Yeah, yad'u.
This is waw muqaddara, Ustad. But actually we cannot, it will become so heavy in pronunciation, we will drop this thing. And when waw is mutaharrik and there's a dhamma before that, it will go naturally into a sukoon, Ustad.
Excellent. So that is the rule that we discussed, and that's what we agreed upon. Mashallah, there are many rules. So we agreed that when a waw has dhamma and there is dhamma before it, then it becomes sakin. That rule, only one rule, if you remember. When waw has dhamma and there is dhamma before it, it becomes sakin. So it has become yad'u. Yes, sister. Hamidun yad'u. Hamidun wa Bilal. Yad'uani, the wow comes back and the dual no change will take place.
Yad'una.
Okay, how has it changed into yad'una?
Again, this we have to drop the root with wow madmuma. So
But why it is yad'una? Why?
because wow is one of the root letters and it returns back when yansuruna.
You will excellent. Yeah,
Yansuruna.
that's what I want you to say because it is equal to yansuruna.
Yes.
Yansuruna yad'una. That's why we discussed in detail. So what happens? And now we have two weak letters together. Easy rule is the first one gets dropped, and the root letter, and the real rule is the root letter gets dropped. So that's why it has changed into yad'una. Yes, sister, please continue. Aminatu. So first one, if it is yad'u, then complete this part.
That 5
please.
will be like that.
Yeah, so yad'u, tad'u, tad'u, ad'u, and
Adu and
nad'u.
nadu.
5 of them will be the same. So when we implement the change to 1, that means the change will be implemented to 5.
5.
Okay.
Then tad'uani for the dual.
Excellent.
Then yad'una.
Yad'una. Okay.
Tad'u. Then tad'uani. Then tad'una. Here it is again tansuruna. Then again it's the same. If one applies, the alternate will apply. Like if we have for hum, it will apply to antum. And if we have for hunna, it will apply for antunna. So automatically that will change. Then in anti, we have this is tansurina.
Tansurina, perfect. Yes.
It will become tadu'uina. So this wow kasra is the root letter. So we have to drop that. And yeah, and noon is a part of the construction. So we will retain that. So it will become tad'ina. Then antuna is the same.
It's basically, sister, it's tad'u, and then sakina, and then
is compatible with the kasra.
Yeah, so that's why it has changed into kasra. Yeah,
Tad'ina. Okay, tad'ina. And then it is tad'iani, then antunna tad'una, then ana ad'u because it's a part of the 5, and nahnu nad'u part of the 5.
Excellent. So when we say part of the 5, when we implement the change to the first one, then it will be implemented to the 4th one, and then similarly the 7th one, and then I think the 11th, 13th, and then the 14th. So it will be implemented to all of them. Okay, now how to make fi'l al-amr?
Amr is drop the mudare letter, and then here there is wow, include the hamzatul wasl, and also as a part of the amr we have to drop, you have to give a sakin, so automatically the wow gets dropped, which is a part of the construction.
Basically we make it from, we make it from the second person, yeah. So from tad'u and tad'una, tad'ina, and tad'una. So we basically make fi'l al-amr lil mukhatab for these 6. We have 6, whereas here we have 4. Yeah.
For anta, antuma, antum, anti, antum, antuna.
Yeah. So if you remember, then the waw gets dropped, then the alamatul mudari gets dropped, and then here we have dhamma. That's why we will add dhamma.
That's why the third letter will.
Yeah, that's have. Number 1. Or we know that this is from bab nasara yansuru. That's why we have to add hamzatul wasl with dhamma. Udu'u ya hamidu. Okay, and then for the plural it will be Udu'u ya hamidu wa bilalu, and Udu'u ya awladu. And then Udu'i ya aminatu, and yes, Udu'u ya haminatu wa zainabu, Udu'una ya banatu.
Ya banatu.
Ud'i, then it's not Ud'iya, it will be Ud'i. Basically, we have made it from here, Tad'ina, and if you remember, the noon gets dropped, Alamatul Madari gets dropped, and when we add Hamzatul Wasl with Dhamma, it will be Ud'i.
Yes,
Ud'i.
I was confused with Antuma, it will become Udu, right? Udu.
Yes. Okay, what is the most interesting thing about this bab, or about the ayah, the rule?
Interesting in the sense?
In the sense like something that never happens in the Arabic language, something that is very rare to happen.
The anti and this antuna, no.
Look here. Yad'una,
Yeah.
yad'una, tad'una, tad'una.
Yes, yes. Ustad.
So for the masculine plural
Hum
and for
and
the
hunna.
hum and hunna, the present tense is the same, and antum and antunna, the present tense is the same.
So it's very rare to happen like that.
As
But
I said, yeah, this is very, very rare. So as you can, because, but however, for whom it has happened because the changes have taken place. And for
this will
yad'una,
happen, Ustad, for everything with this
raja,
bab, like
yarju,
the
yeah, in this bab,
the
of course.
with ya nakhis, for everyone it will happen like that.
Yes, tala, yatlu, maha, yamhu, we have practiced a lot of them.
Yeah.
So whenever you will practice them, you will find, because the thing is, al-banatu yad'una, this one, no change has taken place. It's on the pattern of yansurna. It's on the same pattern. Whereas this one, what happened, why it has collided, because it has changed because of the changes that we have to make to the weak verbs. And when we make the changes, after changes, it becomes yad'una, la mafar, there is no escape. So when there is no escape, we will not make any changes by ourselves. Ijbari and forcefully, we will not make any changes because we are already making so many changes. So that's why it will remain as it is. So this is the beautiful thing that happens, that yad'una, al-uladu yad'una, wal-banatu yad'una, and antum tad'una, and antunna tad'una. And of course,
something like that.
yes, that's right. Yeah, and there are mashallah many examples in the Quran, and as we discussed that, we will discuss the examples when we do the exercises, right?
So that will lead to any confusion, Ustad, in the Quran?
Of course not. No. It will never, because why? Because yad'una would be understood by default that it includes both.
Male, masculine.
Yeah, it includes both masculine and feminine.
Okay.
Unless the khitab is only to the feminine or to the feminine, to the ladies. Yeah. For example, al-banatu or al-nisa'u, yad'una. If it is singled out, or if it is like, if you single it out, then it will be al-banatu or an-nisa'u yad'una. But if the word yad'una, only the word yad'una has been used in the Quran, then it refers to both masculine and feminine. Okay. Yes. So inshallah, there won't be any confusion. Okay, now we have another beautiful verb here, which is ari. It's basically a verb form number 4. Number 1 is ra'a, yara. Ra'a means to see. Ra'aytu, I saw, right? Ra'ayna, we saw. Ra'a, yara. But this one is ara, yuri. This is number 4. Ara, yuri, on the pattern of aslama, yuslimu. You don't need to get into detail, because inshallah, when we go into book 3, we will discuss in detail. But the only thing here we need to know that if you are making fi'l al-amr to someone, you're asking him to show me something.
It's just a single word, right? Re.
Yeah. Lala, for re will be, again, please don't confuse it. This one is 4th form of the verb. 4th.
Aslama.
Aslama yuslimu, okay? Whereas ra is from number 1. So this is number 1. Ara yuri. That's why I'm saying let's not get into the details. The only thing, if you want someone to show you something, you will say ari, and then you say ni, show me. Arini, of course, to the masculine. And if there is a feminine next to you, you will say arini, then the ya comes back as well. So arini, يقول المدرس لكل طالب من الطلاب. The teacher says to every student from the students, he says arini, show me. Okay, what is the most beautiful thing about this verb? This verb requires 3 ثلاثة مفاعيل. It needs 3 objects. So we have discussed that there are some verbs like they need 1 object, most of them. Then we have seen that hada, yahdi, ihdi, if you remember, it requires maf'ulain. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqima. And now we have ari. It requires thalathatu mafa'il, or it needs 3 objects. How? Arini, number 1. Kitaba, number 2.
And
ka, number 3. Okay. Yes. Arini, kitabaka, ya falan, show me your book.
Can I write something? You mean to say this ra'a, this one is this
number
one?
1. This is number 1.
This is number 1, Ustad?
Yes.
Okay, and this one, how it comes in
ara,
the scale of
ara
Aslama?
yuri. It will be ara yuri.
How is that?
It
Ara,
is.
how it
It
comes in
is.
the scale of Aslama?
It is araya yuriyu. So ara yuri.
It will
Aslama
be like
yuslimu.
this.
Yes.
Ara, yeah, something like that. How is
And
that?
then alif
Can you
maqsura
write?
after that. After alif maqsura. Put alif
Huh?
maqsura.
What's that?
Or let me show you on the, we are going to that Word file. Also, let me show you on the Word file how it works. So we have basically two verbs that we have been discussing about. So let me share first. Okay, anyways, or maybe first we can go through the vocabulary first, and then inshallah, I believe we can discuss about this. What do you think?
No, I just want the root letters for this one, Ustad. Oh, how it will be? I just want to know.
Okay, so it's basically Hamza, Ra, and Ya. Hamza, Ra, and Ya.
Hamza,
Ra,
Hamza, fully
yes,
written Hamza, Hamza,
yes,
Ra, and Ya.
yeah,
Okay, Ustad. Araya.
Araya. Araya, Yuriyu, Ara, Yuri. So inshallah, just give me a minute and then we will discuss about it if you want to. Otherwise, it's clear that Ra'a, Yara is from number 1 and Ara, Yuri is from number 4. Yurikumullahu ayatihi. And this one, yani Arini and all of them, most of them, they have been used a lot in the Quran. So from number 1, which is Ra'a Yara, and number 4, Ara Yuri, both of them are very, very common and they have been used a lot in the Quran. Okay, let's look at the vocab now. So kawa yakwi kayan, to iron or to press. So kawa yakwi is on the pattern of daraba yadribu. Kawa yakwi kayan. Then we have naharun, that means day. Then we have masha yamshi, mashiyan, to walk. Masha yamshi, mashiyan, to walk. Yaminun, right hand. And then we have jara yajri, jariyan, to run. And yasarun means left hand. And then we have rama yarmi, ramyan, to throw. And tawa yatwi, tayan, to fold. Hada yahdi, and to guide. And it has 3 basically masadr. It has hudan, wa hadiyan, wa hidayatan. Hudan is also the masdar of hada yahdi. Hudan lil muttaqeen. The word hudan is used a lot as well. So it has basically 3 thalathatu masadr, we should say 3 masadr. So hada yahdi, hadiyan, wa hidayatan, wa hudan. And hudan, how will we write the hudan? It will be written with alif maqsura. Tanawulun, taking or eating. Ilahun, God. And qawmun, people. And this is the vocab that we have already taken in the book already. We have discussed all of them. Da'a yad'u, du'a'an wa da'watan, to invite. Also, this one has 2 masadir or masdarain. Then we have shaka yashku, shikayatan, to complain about someone, to complain about. Tala yatlu, tilawatan, to recite and to follow. Maha yamhu, mahwan, to erase. Afa ya'fu, afwan, to forgive. And now, as we discussed earlier, you have lots of verbs and you have lots of vocab to practice. Now it's up to you. Nasiya yansa, nisyanan, to forget. Khashiya yakhsha, khashiyatan, to fear. Baqiya yabqa, baqa'an, to remain. Waqa yaqaw, wuquwan, to fall. Baka yabki, buka'an, to cry. Saqa yasqi, saqiyan, to give water. Are these verbs new to you?
No, Ustad.
Yeah, we have discussed here. Laylun, night. Turabun, dust. Ahlun, people. Ahlun is always used as plural and always used as mudaf mudaf ilayh. Mumazzaqun, torn. And then we have hadiyatun, gift. Ashabun, people, also used as mudaf mudaf ilayh. Tahqiqun, investigation. Haqqaqa yuhaqqiqu tahqiqan, if you remember. And then we have qumamatun, garbage, tabi'a yatba'u, to follow. Then we have ata ya'ti, ityanan, to come. And then we have bana yabni, bina'an, to build. So this is the vocab of this lesson. All of this we have already taken in the lessons, and we have discussed all the lessons thoroughly. And mashallah, yani, we have discussed everything. So now 90% of your burden is, alhamdulillah, is gone or has been removed. And it's all because of Allah's help and your efforts and my efforts as well. So now, inshallah, after that, things will be much easier. So we have completed Mu'tal al-Fa, Mu'tal al-Ain, Mu'tal al-Lam. We started with Mithal, then Ajwaf, and then Naqis. So we have discussed them all one by one in all of them in detail. Okay, now before we leave, I don't want you to, we will, sister, maybe remind me if we couldn't, because I have planned lesson in a different way. So if we couldn't complete that, like Ara Yuri, we can discuss it, inshallah. We can always discuss it tomorrow. But what I have today, inshallah, I would like to complete it first, so that we are not left with anything from this lesson. Okay, Ismul Fa'il. How to make Ismul Fa'il? The doer Ismul Fa'il in both Naqis Wawi and Naqis Ya'i comes on the pattern of Fa'ilin. What's the pattern? Fa'ilin. Okay. If you remember in Ajwaf, it was Fa'ilun. There was Hamza added over there.
Hamza, yeah.
Yeah, and here it's completely different. Here we have Fa, the first Fa and Alif, and then there is a complete change. We have Lam, or we have the last letter, which has Kasratain. And this is called At-Tanween. Do you remember the name of this Tanween? At-Tanween Al-Iwad. Al-Iwad means substitute. Then that something was over there, and this Tanween has basically taken place, because what happens
Deleting
in here,
the ya or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, wow and yeah, both of them, they get deleted. That's why we call it manqus. You might have heard about Ismul Manqus, maybe in book 1,
Yes,
or maybe
that
in book 2.
ends
Yeah.
with ya, like
Yeah, so
Hadi.
now we know, yeah, Hadin and Hadin and all of them, Da'in. Now we have reached that stage where we can, inshallah, see and say that why we call it Ismul Manqus. Number one here, because it has waw or ya as one of the root letters, as one of the weak root letters. Waw and ya is one of the. That's why we call it Naqis. Naqis is on the pattern of Ismul Fa'ilun. What will be on the pattern of Ismul Maf'ul? Manqus. Naqis, Manqus. Okay, why we say Manqus? That something is defective over there. There is a defect. And that's why we call it Ismul Manqus, because the last, the root letter, the third one, is weak. That's why it is called Manqus. Why do we call it Ismul Manqus? We call it Ismul Manqus. First, we look at it, how the change has taken place, and then we will see why we call it Manqus. Okay, the regular form of the doer is Fa'ilun. Is this something new to you?
No, Ustad, this is the usual.
This is the usual one. The Fa'ilun is the standard one. After Fa'ilun, we have to put on the root letters of the one that we are discussing now. So we have the A1. If you remember, the A1. So Fa has Fatha, Dal has Fatha, Alif, no problem. Ain has Kasra, and Waw has Dhammatain, and Lam has Dhammatain. So originally it should be the A1. The A1. This is how it should be originally, but the Arabs, they don't see it like this. They say it's difficult for us to pronounce the A1. So what we are going to do, we are going to drop Waw altogether, and we are going to replace it with Kasratain. Ain retains over there, and that's why it has become the Ain. So that's why it is called Manqus, that whenever Waw and Ya are the root letter, and Ismul Fa'il or Ismul Maf'ul, Ismul Fa'il, when it has been replaced with Tanween, Kasratain, then we will call it that this is called Ismul Manqus. So what has basically happened over there? Waw has been replaced with Kasratain. So it has become Da'in. The easy way to remember is that ismul fa'il for naqis will be on the pattern of fa'ilin. And if you are interested to know how it happened, this is how it has happened. So it has become da'in. So basically, waw has been dropped and it has been replaced with kasratain, da'in. Now, inshallah, it will be easy for you to make from. So, okay, da'in. What about the feminine? Da'in, and for the feminine, it will be
Da'iyatun.
da'iyatun. Da'iyatun, okay. So it will be as we have over there. I hope no change, no big change takes place. Okay, so it will be yeah, and then we have tamarput. That will be da'iyatun. Okay, now the only thing that you need to think about, like, where has this ya come from? Okay, in naqis ya'i, it makes sense that we have ya as the as one of the root letters. But in naqis wawi, we have waw as the third root letter, right? Da'a, what are the root letters of da'a? Da'awa, da'awa, right? But what happened over here is, whether we have naqis wawi or we have naqis ya'i, whenever you are making feminine or whenever you are making dual, we have to put ya over there. We cannot put waw over here because waw is difficult to pronounce. So for both, for ajwaf wawi and for ajwaf ya'i, the Arabs decided that for both, naqis, sorry, for both, for naqis wawi and naqis ya'i, they said that we are going to put ya over there, the end of the story.
And so already there's a kasra also, Ustad, in French, so ya is more compatible like that.
In fact, ya, you know that ta marbuta is always preceded by ya. Okay. Whenever you see ta marbuta, there will always be fatha before it. It never comes without fatha before it. So they are connected together. Okay, but originally what I want to explain over here, for the feminine, it should have been the iwatun, right? Waw should have been over there because the root letters are the, ain, waw. However, it has been replaced with ya, and it will be replaced with ya in both for naqis wawi and naqis ya'i. I hope it's clear now. So from tala, it is talin and taliyatun. Tala, talin and taliyatun. From afa, it is afin and afiyatun. Okay, from rada, it is
radin,
radiyatun. Radin and radiyatun. From jara, it is jarin. Jarin, of course. Jaran means neighbor.
Yeah, jarin, it's a noun, right?
Yeah, so it's jarin. And then we have jariyatun. Okay, have you, what about the words jarin and radiyatun and jariyatun? Any examples from the Quran?
Yes, radiyatun.
Radiyatun mardiyah.
Radiyatun
mardiyah. جارية فيها عين
جارية.
فيها سرور مرفوع.
Okay, and
even Afia in dua.
Afia is in the dua, and also we use it as a name as well.
As a name as well, yes.
And the word that we have always been using from book 1, we have atiyatun. Ajib anil asilatil atiya. Answer the following question. Yeah. So it's basically ata yati from ata. Fi'l al-amr will be atin because we have hamza here, and we know that when two hamzas come together, they change into mad. So it has become atin, and the feminine will be atiyatan. So from tala, talin, afa, afin, rada, radiya, it should be radiya. So from radiya, it's radin. And from jara, it's jarin, and from ata, it's atin. Okay, what will be from hada?
Hadin.
Excellent, mashallah. You see, from hada, it will be hadin. Okay, and for the feminine, it will be
hadiya. Hadiyatun.
Hadiyatun, right? Hadiyatun. Hadin, and then we have hadiyatun. Excellent. Hadin and hadiyatun. And now, inshallah, whenever you see any verb which is naqis from that verb,
Yai or wawi.
yes, whether it is wawi or yai, ismul fa'il will be always like this: radin, afin, jarin, atin, hadin. And when, please remember that I always tell you that whenever you make ismul fa'il for the masculine, don't forget to make it for the feminine. Because when you will make it for the feminine, then you will get used to it, because both of them are used in the Quran. So both of them, we should be used to it. So this one will be hadiyatun. Okay, so I hope inshallah it's clear now. Ismul fa'il is clear and ismul maf'ul is very easy. We don't need to worry about that. And this is the only thing. And now you should be able to know that when we say ismul manqus, why we call it ismul manqus. And this is only applicable to ismul fa'il. Or whenever we have, basically whenever we have ya and there is kasra before it, then it changes into at-tanween al-iwad, it changes into kasratain. And that's why we call it al-manqus. Whenever we say ismul manqus, that means there was a kasra before ya and it has changed into kasratain. That's why it is called manqus. Any questions? Okay, so we have ra'a. Okay, we have ra'a and we have yara. Sister, coming back to your question.
Ustad, my battery is down. It's 1%. Maybe I will. I think I'll just drop off.
Okay, so we don't need to discuss it then. Or if the others, if
Yes,
you
sir,
want
tomorrow,
to,
sir, inshallah.
Tomorrow, inshallah, we will discuss about ismul maf'ul and this verb, which is really very important. Both of them, ra'a and ara yuri, to show someone something.
Inshallah.
All right, you will see the stars, inshallah. I'll show you the stars tomorrow. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام وإياكم.